All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
My Villain Academia, Season 5, Episode 22.
All right, so
boy.
last episode, okay. Toga,
Real good.
Toga,
Yeah.
twice. I'm
Awesome.
really excited specifically for twice in this episode.
Oh, absolutely.
The
Yeah.
follow-up of having some kind of a fight where a person uses some kind of puppet clones of him
To truly break his mind.
just break him. And the way that all of the League of Villains are kind of getting attacked in a way that seems to be for the purpose of being like, no. You're going to join us.
Right, exactly. You're nothing special. You're a small little organization, and we will condescend to let you become part of our ranks.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And yet, the more and more this goes on, the more and more I see there being a possibility that maybe, if anything, they have to bend the knee. You know?
Yeah, well, because, the members of the League of Villains really seemed to be fairly high up in the Meta Liberation Front when we saw them in the past that's the future from here, that whole thing. So that seems a lot more than just like an equal standing partnership.
Yeah, but also something where all the League of Villains thus far have been showing their power-ups in their own respective areas.
Toga copying quirks, yeah.
Freaking Shigaraki not even needing to touch people necessarily. Maybe it was just the fact that they were touching each other or in close enough proximity to the dust particles that were released.
Then went out and
hit them
and then spread it
and stuff. So yeah, no big deal. So y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Oh my god, this episode was just a hype fest.
This was awesome.
This was emotional charged hype fest. So Twice is like debatably the best League of Villain member emotional character-wise other than Shigaraki.
And I would say
and he gives Shigaraki a run for his money.
Personally, I like him a lot more than Shigaraki because I feel like Shigaraki is still kind of like the he's the
still
slow
room to
burn,
grow.
right? Yeah, he has room to grow, right? And that's kind of part of the point of him.
We're investing in the stonks of Shigaraki for the long term.
But one of the things that I think is a really good way to be able to see why Twice is such a great character is not just how well his scenes are written, but the fact that he's gotten more flashbacks and backstories and stuff than I think any of the other League of Villains, like even Shigaraki.
Sequentially, I think he got 2 or 3 now.
Yeah, and they were decently length. Because like Toga's in the previous episode, that wasn't as much from Toga's perspective. We got a little bit from Toga's perspective.
There's a lot of perspective from other kids kind of reacting to her moment of
which makes sense because it was kind of the societal, like pressure and response to the things that she did, right? But I love Twice so much, and the way this whole episode happened as for why he got the power boost / why he took off the limiters and all that stuff like that. I love how it happened because we could kind of tell from the previous episode that was going to happen. It had to happen because Toga doesn't die, right? Like Toga's going to be okay because
this is kind of the like we said the conflict that would be the stone, the grindstone, basically that would forge a new League of Villains here.
Right, and we know they all turn out, for the most part, okay, because this is, something that happened in the past, and we saw them at the Meta Liberation Army headquarters.
Yeah, so it's important to see how that happens.
Right, exactly.
And with Twice,
we got the people that basically showed kindness to him being in danger, both for Giran and for Toga. We got his mask being removed. We got him being attacked by copies of himself, which is what made him flip out and have and put these limiters on himself in the first place. That's where his trauma came from. And then see himself be the one doing the damage and the hurt to someone that he cared about. All of those things put together, and then on top of that, the very thing that he used as a metric to basically know whether or not he was real, that he had been too scared to do, gets forced upon him.
And his arms being broken. Choosing.
Right, exactly.
Which is a perfect natural thing for the villain to do because he doesn't understand necessarily the deep intricacies of
Twice's mind.
That's in Twice's mind. So this thing being something that's we're gonna have your arms broken, and he's like, oh God. And maybe they were just dislocated because he was able to hold Toga afterwards. But the point is that thing being something that forces upon us, and him really, to understand that he's the real one, creates a really interesting question. Does it really matter whether he's the real one?
Because this, on a technical rules perspective, it's, yes, awesome, Twice. You were the real one, right? You managed to survive. And there's a different kind of like story, poetry, narrative that you can get from that, right?
Absolutely.
And I love that stuff too, right?
That you're strong enough. You're
exactly.
able to handle the complexities and insanity that this whole world and life brought upon you.
Right. You're not dead yet. You're still kicking.
You're still kicking. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, that's real good.
Yeah.
The other thing that I like to look at it in is, but what if Twice, just because he had to believe that he was the real one, right? So desperate for it, and we've shown that he can, create stuff and whatnot, that maybe, it's like that Monogatari thing. Is it possible that the imitation, the fake could be even more
real thing?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe even more valuable because that's how hard it's struggling to be the real thing, right? Even if this is a copy of Twice, everything in his essence was, I want to be me. Yeah. Right? And so now, whether it's because he is the original or he's a copy, he is real.
He is the real Twice.
And God, I love that.
Yeah, like, it's so good.
It's just awesome.
It creates this perfect little loop where we're like, we don't need to test the integrity of the loop. Twice believes it. We believe it. There it is. He's the real one.
And theoretically, that's also a way that they could make it so that you don't ever have to worry about killing off Twice.
Yeah, you can't kill Twice.
Right, because if that's how it works, then theoretically, as long as there is a double that survives long enough to be like, no, I must be the real one, right? Then maybe they can be. And that is such a god. Like, that is such an awesome way to make a character unkillable, because one of the big issues is when you have quirks and things like that is what if you get a quirk that's just too powerful, right? Yeah. And in a situation like this, Twice's quirk, quite frankly, is
kind of too powerful,
right? because who can stop him, right?
Right.
But there are all these restrictions and limitations because of him as a person that make it a lot more manageable within the story.
Right.
He doesn't want to hurt Jiren, right? No. So he's not going to do things that will put him in danger, right? Copies of other people might do things that put him in danger, and that's sort of a...
But they also do share very similar, I would say, mindsets with regards to them there. So all of them didn't want Jiren to get hurt when the other members of the League of Villains that were copied by Twice went to go attack Redestro.
Yep.
They all were like, no, don't do that.
Right.
So I think what's cool here is that his copies are so perfect that they could essentially be replacements for the real thing. And in fact, we had an instance here where Shigaraki had a copy that knew this is what I would do.
And I saw my other me down there that's probably the real thing, so... Okay.
So, therefore, we need to get ready for this tower to crumble.
Yep.
Because
I would totally do it.
About Jiren.
Right.
So, just FYI, if you care about Jiren, Twice copy.
Yeah.
Cushion him.
I think there is a way that we can make sure that he lives, but,
it's going to take 6 Twices to, human, ball of mass just clump together.
I also got to say, this is a great way to address the issue of, a few of the potential issues with the idea of this conflict and the League of Villains being okay, is that numbers, right?
Numbers.
How do you deal with that? Gigantomachia, that's a great way to potentially do it.
But there's a time limit on
since there's a time limit, how do you make it so that none of them die or are grievously injured in that amount of time? Toga got hurt pretty bad, but, she'll be fine in all due time, right? But, that's an army, right? It's seeing how a bunch of Twices work when they're all, they don't have any quirk other than, making more of themselves, so... In a fight, one Meta Liberation Army soldier versus one Twice person, and the Twice copy is more fragile and everything, the Meta Liberation Army soldier will probably win. Yep. And Twice being this overwhelming of a force here, how much more so is the Meta Liberation Army, right? Yeah. So it's a great way to build up the Meta Liberation Army, while at the same time making it so that the League of Villains can be in conflict with them and not be crushed.
Right.
So,
and we kind of got a couple things about the Meta Liberation Army this episode. One, they're planning to have the strength and quality, if you will, of someone's meta ability be the thing that dictates their social standing.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yes, of course. Of course it is. No, we couldn't just have something that was better for kind of the social, just kind of general kind of community.
Yeah, it's the
we're gonna measure people with a yardstick.
Yeah, it's kind of that
lovely.
It's even a more extreme version of sort of like the Magneto thing of the hey, we're not being treated as people, so now we're going to go full the other way and be like we're now the superior race, and it's like hold on now. Hold on now.
In this world where 90, the overwhelming percentage of people have a quirk and stuff like that, you very easily can see the situation where it's the minority that doesn't have quirks. What happens to them?
Oh, they make a great labor force, like.
Yeah, this seems good. Let's look at history. I don't think this is something that works out. Not just in the morality side of things, but also on the
sustainability,
being on the wrong side of history kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yep. That's one thing, but also the idea then that Redestro has a very personal motivation with this.
Yep. And I loved how they decided to handle this because if you're going to have this organization that's been around for a long time, we need to care about the leader. But since the character that's been more built up at this point isn't Redestro, but Destro. We need to know who Destro was,
right?
So that way we can know who Redestro is, right?
And we learned a little bit more about who Redestro is than who Destro was because we kind of already knew a bit more about that. But the idea that quirks being something that the government wanted basically to find a way to keep people safe. Ish.
Yeah, it's that whole thing of the
chaos
X-Men
and order kind of thing, you
right?
know?
It's very much like that kind of X-Men story, but this organization is taking place when everyone's kind of figured out how to coexist with the whole quirk thing
for the most part. Villains are still on the rise, so I would say that's
it's definitely.
All Might was the stopping block, basically.
Right, and now the dam is starting to break.
So now we're realizing that he was more a plug on the hole that is society's problems.
But the dam existed, right?
Yes,
even if it had cracks in it and things like that. Whereas before, it's the chaos when it first appears. How does society? It
was just a river,
right? It's just a flood, right?
Yep.
It's like it's of course it's going to be crazy,
it's a flow, and if you weren't flowing with it, you were going to drown.
And I love as a motivation for how because there's the teachings of Destro, right? Which are from what they seem fairly straightforward. Let people use their abilities and acknowledge that is a part of them and all of that stuff, right? But because of all of the persecution that happened, and then also the fact that this is many generations later, this descendant doesn't necessarily have the best read on maybe even the things that Destro was originally saying.
Sure.
Right? Because when we see Destro in the flashbacks, he's not doing anything crazy, right?
Yeah, he's more just rallying people to
have protests and things like that.
Hey, good.
Especially
freedom of speech.
Yep, and with how chaotic things must have been back then, that's not just cool.
That's charisma.
That is impressive.
That's vision.
That's ridiculously awesome, right?
Yeah.
But now it's the no. We've been on the bottom for so long that now and even
would like to be on the top again.
Right, and even still calling themselves metahumans rather than people with quirks, right? And I liked the idea of why they didn't like the term, because it's it sounded catchy and it was Destro's mother that coined the term and things like that. Mm-hmm. But really it just became kind of an excuse to pacify people, but still not actually, accept them into society and whatnot. Because if you think about it, the fact that there's superheroes and whatnot, that's cool, right? But that's like for the 1% of people that want to make their life revolve around their quirk, right? Mm-hmm. What about for everyone else? We haven't seen too many things in the series. Now, granted, it focuses on people being heroes, so it makes sense from a, screen time standpoint. But we haven't seen too many things of how just general people with quirks are then integrated into society, right? It's someone gets mugged and, they have a force field quirk, that's helpful. But other than that, it's you go about your daily life, not really using it too much.
Yeah, I love, though, the commentary on the idea that the government took someone who was basically oppressed by the society of their time and basically repurposed their their thing in some kind of a romantic way to control the populace, though.
Sure.
That's so real, like, real world kind of situation. It's the idea of people like...
Put spin on something.
Oh, yeah, but it's the idea of, like, Gandhi, for instance. People all love Gandhi from nowadays because there's all this, like, we look back on this and yes, absolutely. But the governments of the time...
Oh, yeah, no.
Hated Gandhi.
Absolutely.
Hated Gandhi.
Yep.
Like the U.S., India, like all that, they hated Gandhi because he was basically a force for a very strong kind of societal change that disrupted the just general flow of a lot of things in his communities and stuff. So it's so like hilarious to see them talking about this, where it's like you didn't get compulsory education, Shigaraki, so you missed out on a little bit of the brainwashing, maybe, that would have happened if you had gotten
history's
that.
Written by the victors and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a little bit of a weird situation where Destro didn't fully, I would say, enact his revolution.
No.
It feels like what happened with him was that he got everything basically stamped out before it fully ignited the spark, this fire of his revolution. But Redestro is basically saying, no, I will finish what you started. I will carry that flame and take it into the next generation.
Right.
All right. Good luck with that. I think that you've got two things that you're basically going to lose the
ideological battle.
Yeah, the ideological battle in this regard. One is the idea of quirk
supremacy,
supremacy, measurement.
Yeah,
kind of a
that's off base from where you started.
That's already off base. I think the idea that's really important to get at here was that the idea that people are born with these quirks. We haven't gone full X-Men where we're going to get people forcibly removing their quirks.
Sure. Even though that is now potentially on the table.
Potentially on the table.
The whole thing that Overhaul brought in.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. But still, we're not there yet.
Right.
But we could be if we have a full-blown scale revolution leading to war.
Right.
That then leads to the government then being like, we need to remove quirks from the populace because there's too many to control.
And if Horikoshi ends up deciding to take things that route, that would pique my curiosity because he specifically made it a setting where he wouldn't have to do that kind of stuff necessarily. Because with the immediate, quirks are now appearing, that you kind of have to have that question be addressed, right?
Yeah.
Here, you don't necessarily have to, but a revolution could definitely bring it back up.
I think that it's going to get brought back up specifically because the revolution is going to be televised. It is going to actually go through. It is going to work in so much that the students are probably going to have to be the ones that rebuild society from the turmoil and chaos.
But
and
also
that will be probably what Deku kind of becomes the greatest hero for, is that he leads the next generation of heroes, not being the great number one, symbol of peace or anything like that, but he makes a bunch of people into symbol of peace.
Because one of the things that I'm curious to see how it gets explored here is that 100,000 Middle Liberation Army, awesome. That can cause ridiculous amounts of damage. It's still a small number.
It is.
A country in wartime, of sizable amount, their armies could be in the millions easily, right? Like, so
we really don't want to go
we
here.
Don't.
Though.
We do.
The world of MHA is not ready for a war.
No, we do not want to go there. But the war is coming, and that's going to happen. And as a result of whatever happens within this next series of arcs, this saga, or however it goes.
Just twice, man.
Yeah, exactly. Twice.
Twice is the example of what happens when an army gets conscripted.
Yep.
And it gets turned on. It's just madness. But these are them being people that are going to have flesh and blood.
Yep.
And the streets would run red. It would
absolutely.
It would be absolute chaos.
Let's just say that we'll get to see just how dark Horikoshi's going to take it.
But also we'll get to see maybe just how heroic the students are actually willing to hold on to their
ideals and such. Because in a wartime, I mean, barbarism will run rampant. That's you don't avoid that. And if somehow you do, then that is definitely...
That means one side is probably winning a lot more than the other.
Sure, or at the very least, that becomes more heroic. Because, like, the whole idea of, like, heroes and the hero society and stuff, like, this show was very, like, timely because of, like, Marvel and, you know, and things like that, right?
We're inundated with superheroes.
We're inundated with superheroes.
So we kind of accept a lot of things as just, yeah, for sure.
But the original reason for superheroes kind of doesn't exist in the same way anymore, right? Because it was a lot of the world wars and things like that, right? We need to have those sort of
symbols,
icons, right? Yeah, exactly.
Which is cool because nowadays we're getting all the way back to coming full circle where we deconstruct those and realize that your icons and your gods are actually a form of twisted humanism that elevates them into a form of where they're like superior in some way.
It already is
the whole thing of where Superman is also just ubermensch.
Kind of,
which is already kind of
and even if you
gross.
don't go into that, then you basically cool. These heroes are just people who do ads on TV.
Yeah. You know, and then you get Watchmen.
There's nothing heroic about that, right?
And then you get Watchmen,
exactly,
who watches the Watchmen.
Yep. And so now,
I love how much the hero genre has been like circled on the whole cycle.
It feels like some weird iterative computer program that's like, all right, what's the next thing?
What's the next stage for humanity?
Yeah, exactly.
And then in this fantastical humanity where everyone has a quirk, a specific thing that gives them an extra bit of individuality. I really just want to see the students have to wrestle with these tough philosophical kind of discussions, because the second reason why I think ideologically Redestro can't really win from this angle here is that he is essentially maybe also trying to do the same thing that the government did with Destro.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it feels brittle. Like what he's doing, it feels so absolute that it just cannot last long, even if he won. It's
not his thing.
Yeah, like something that, like, when I think of like a society that would be really strong, it's one that can be flexible enough to handle change, right?
Yeah, the strongest, handle the extremities of the spectrum.
Right, like when you think of like a really strong bridge, they don't want the bridge to be perfectly rigid. It will break if that happens.
Yeah.
They want it to be able to flex and bend so that it can handle different weights and things. Yep. And I don't see his as being that.
Yeah, you don't want to completely eliminate order, and you don't want to completely eliminate chaos. You have to have
the balance.
The balance. Yeah, exactly. So in a weird way, right now, the thing that's good is that chaos is coming to the surface.
Right.
The Meta Liberation Army is going to force the order and the powers that be to adjust, and we'll find out just how brittle they are with how they adapt to this.
Yep.
And in some ways, that leads the League of Villains to actually be the ones that will be the movers and shakers, and that their philosophies, their ideals, the things that are actually getting focused on, weirdly enough, specifically through this arc, we're learning about the things that make Twice different than Shigaraki or Toga.
Yep.
We're learning about the things that make Toga different from any other of the League of Villains. We're learning
Spinner
about...
still has to figure out what he's going to do.
I mean, we've got Compress and Spinner, and they're getting shafted, but it's unfortunate. But then
they're tertiary.
We have Dabi, who's just waiting in the wings for his moment.
Yep.
And like, we know, like, there's gonna be a reckoning.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
He will endeavor to bring his...
bring change,
His change, yeah.
Yep.
And I'm just really excited for these seeds that seem to be sown into the death and chaos of the Meta Liberation Front's army.
Because theoretically, even Twice aside, they brought up that, like, the ice guy killed a lot of their own people when he was fighting the Twices. Those people are not going to come back. Like, you might have just
killed 300 people,
5,000 people, or like
probably not that many.
Probably not that many, but like
a city,
like but like this army has limited supply, and this fight is, as it escalates, even before Gigantomachia gets there, which he's now on his way.
Right.
They are going to have serious losses from this.
Okay, weird random question: is Redestro Mr. Fantastic?
Okay, so
what is his quirk?
No, I don't think he's Mr. Fantastic, because it seems to have an enhancement of some kind. Like he's not just like Luffy or whatever, right? Like,
no, he actually might be Luffy.
Well, but it seemed to be
he's swelling as well,
right? But it seemed to have like a kind of like gigantification, like strength that comes with the like it's not just
Luffy
a flimsy material.
He has his gear forms. Oh my god!
Okay,
you might hit the nail on the head.
No, but trying to talk about the logic of Luffy's gear powers and all that stuff doesn't necessarily work outside the world of One Piece. But
I gotcha.
But
okay.
There also seem to be like the changing of the skin, like a decay or something like that.
Yeah,
so
it felt like it was more of a scarring or something.
Yeah, or a bruise, or like which would be very fitting given the fact that he is basically living his whole life as these wrongs have been done to my ancestors, and now I will exact my vengeance.
Yeah, let me show you the pain that I carry with me. Let me show you the burden and the weight that I carry, so that you know that this is not some thing that I'm just echoing. That is something that he does need to prove, though. I think, though, that the point is that he talks a big talk, and the important thing, I think, is that we have to understand that meta-wise, not talking about meta ability, but meta with the story, Redestro kind of needs to shunt all this exposition out as fast as possible.
Yes.
Because we don't care about him.
Nope.
He's nobody.
And I don't really think I ever will.
I don't think I ever will, but I also think the important thing is that he's not shown in any of the other stuff with the Meta Liberation Front's group that's working with the League of Villains in the future.
Yeah, there is a possibility that Shigaraki kills him.
Or Gigantomachia
kills him.
Boof,
either way, because in a lot of ways, he feels like a form of Shigaraki that's just less interesting. Because if Shigaraki is the successor to All for One,
oh sure,
Redestro is quite literally the successor of Destro, right? Yeah. But I don't think he has made it his own. He's a copy right now in my mind.
Yeah,
right?
He's bringing forth very good discussion.
Yeah.
He's going to start the conversation again, but sorry, I don't think you're going to carry this flame.
Nope, I don't think history will write anything about you either.
No, I don't think so either. I think if anything, he's probably going to get sadly forgotten. Now, I want to clarify something I said earlier. I was looking at the episode a little bit more here. The backstory that he was talking about was not his. That was Destro's backstory.
Right, exactly. So I
said that wrong, but
even more so,
it's even more so a thing of showing that
it's not his battle. Really,
he doesn't even see it as himself.
Yep,
it is something that specifically he carries with the highest level of conviction and intention.
Totally,
this is something that I will embody.
Right,
and thus. Yeah, we don't care about him. He is a vessel. He is an avatar.
Right. I would want to see him in order for me to care about him, I would want to see him specifically go on a journey like Shigaraki has to figure out, who am I really? Why do I carry this? Do I truly believe these ideals and stuff? And how do I hold them? Where are they different with me?
Which all just emphasizes the point that he is not important to the grand scheme of the story.
Nope.
He is a stepping stone for Shigaraki and the League of Villains.
Yeah, I think so.
Some characters do need to be that. Sometimes.
Yep. That's right.
That's okay. But that's something that I feel like his very awkward, I'm going to just talk at you the whole time we're fighting kind of exposition is. Because I think Shigaraki's listening. This is a copy, mind you.
Yeah, so the information won't get passed back to Shigaraki. Yeah,
it might not get passed back to the original.
It's for the audience. But
it's important that we know that. Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
But okay. Maybe the conversation will continue though, and he says, I missed my chance to hear the answer. And he's like, oh, so you're the boss, huh? Gigantomachia is on his way.
Yep.
And the doctor said the successor of All for One is having some trouble because he's running on low sleep.
Yep.
And he's like, the successor. And then he launches himself. I think Gigantomachia might be an extremely helpful ally here.
I think the doctor did them a solid.
Yeah, I think the doctor might have saved
this whole time was we don't think you're actually worthy of being called All for One's successor. Like, really, kid? So the fact that he actually said that to Gigantomachia and everything.
Here we go.
Oh boy.
So y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the full-length timer version of the reaction, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. Any level support there gets you access to our Discord. You can chat with us in the community there about MHA as a show. There's stuff for the MHA manga people in there as well. And also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.